Okay, good afternoon guys. Magandang hapon. So, itutuloy natin yung lesson natin kahapon which is about separation of variables. Okay? So last time, we're solving a problem. Di ba? Yung problem natin kahapon. Baka kasi nakalimutan na natin. So ito yung problem natin kahapon. Meron tayong malaking infinite grounded metal plates on y is equal to 0 and y is equal to a. Tapos yung isang side niya, insulated yung boundaries. Yung isang side niya may strip that is maintained at specific potential V naught of Y. So function ng V naught, no? So as you go up, nagbabago siya. Okay, so hanapin daw natin yung potential inside this slot. Okay? Okay. So we collected the boundary condition and we suppose that the potential can be written as a function, two functions na minumultiply lang natin, which is yung x, which is a function of x, si big Y, which is a function of y. Then we plug this in here. Then by solving the differential equations that we obtained, okay, so nahiwalay natin siya into two functions, di ba? Naalala nyo? Tinanong ko kayo kung paano ito ma-solve. And the only solution for this is that these two functions would be constant. And then with that, we have this guy. So solve natin to, and the solution niyan, general form ng x will be given by this, and the general form of y will be given as this. Okay? And then we applied our boundary conditions na wala kasi kailangan maging infinity ay maging zero ni V kapag nagpunta ka sa infinity sa X. So dapat yung A mo maglalako. Okay? Kasi yung B inabsorb na lang natin sa mga natirang letters. Tapos in-apply pa natin yung ibang boundary conditions when we obtained this guy. Okay? So okay na tayo sa ang kailangan na lang na boundary condition will be i-apply ito. Okay? I-apply itong pangatlo. Okay. Okay. So nalaman natin si K sa paghahanap dun sa pag-apply nung number 2. Okay? So kailan magzi-zero si sign? So at values of n pi, A. Okay? Saan yung ginawa natin doon? Ito pala yun. Okay. Ayan. Okay? So, pinlog in natin si V, si y is equal to A, we have this. And then, to find out what the constants are, we have this guy. Okay. So, going back, we continue. So, meron na tayong ganito, no? Ang problema na lang natin is yung third boundary condition, which is kapag x natin, dapat dito pala siya. Ba't pa ako bumalik? Okay, so we copy that. We have here yung potential natin V of xy. And then, ano pa lang notes to V of xy. Tapos, ang natira sa atin, C e raised to kx sine ky. Okay? And then, plug in na natin si k para cute. C is equal to, okay. N pi x over, para lang di tayo malito. N pi x over a sine N pi x over a. Tama? Where n is Our k is n pi over a. Sorry. I'm lost. Friday na, pagod na tayo. Forgive me. Okay, go. We apply the last boundary condition, which is last boundary condition, v naught of y when x equal to 0. Okay? So v naught of y when x is equal to 0. So we have here 0, y. Okay, pinlog in ko lang si 0 kay x. Yes, tama. N pi y over a. Very good. Okay, n pi y over a. Say y yun. Okay. Very good. Ang dali makakita ng ano ng error pag tinitingnan mo sa ibang tao. Kaya maganda mag-work by group kasi ay mali, parang mali ginawa mo. Okay, so plug in ko yung 0 here. E raised to 0 is just 1. And we have C sine of n pi y over a, which is sorry. Ayaw niya naman gumalaw. Yan, gumalaw na siya. Okay, which is just equal to v naught of y. Okay, so how do we solve this problema? Okay, since may problema pa tayo isang constant, kailangan natin mahanap yun. However, let's look at this. Si sign mo, yung values niya pwedeng maging sign 0. Pwede siya maging sign pi y over a. Okay? Pi y over a. And then you have sine 2 pi y over a. Okay, so there are infinite number of solutions for your sine. Okay, di ba nagbaback kasi yung n mo, yung n values mo. Now, syempre, you can't be sure kung ano yung form ni v naught of y. Basta binigyan lang tayo ng v naught of y. We don't know if it is something like this, something like this. So what we can do is just take the sum of all that values, okay? So of all these values na pwedeng mangyari sa kanya, okay? So we have here, so ang gagawin natin, we sum everything from n to infinity, and then si C, magkakaroon siya ng identity niya, Cn, para mag-adjust, okay? To compensate for the other terms. Okay? So, ang problem naman natin ngayon, hanapin si Cn. Okay? So, again, when we plug in 0 for x, magiging v naught of y yung right-hand side, tapos ito yung matitira. Okay? Now, what happens is mas madali na siyang isolve ngayon. Okay, so ito ay ginawa nito. Ang trick na to, ang tawag dito ay Fourier's trick. Fourier's trick. Okay, so ginawa niya, you have to integrate both sides by multiplying sine n prime pi y over a dy. Okay, so integrate mo lang. Ang gagawin mo is from here, di ba, ito yung equation natin, and 1 infinity, tapos cn sine n pi y over a. Then I have to multiply sine n prime pi y over a. So si n prime ay similar lang din sa nature ni n. So it can be an integer from 1 to infinity. Okay, so ayun. And then I'll integrate that with respect to dy from 0 to a. Okay. And then, syempre, kung anong gagawin ko sa kaliwa, gagawin ko rin sa kanan. Tama? So, yung kanan ko will be integral from 0 to a. Yung ano natira sa kanan, v0 sine. v0 sine yung minultiply kong extra term. y over a dy. Okay? Okay. So si v0 ay function of y. Lagyan natin dito. So hindi siya pwedeng makalabas ng integral kasi in-integrate mo siya with respect to y. Okay. So we have to solve for this integral. Okay? Okay. May nakakalam na ba paano mag-solve nito? Okay. So, minsan nakakapanik agad, no? Pag may mga ganyan-ganyan ka, try mo muna gumamit ng trigonometric identities. So, we have this trigonometric identity. Ibahin natin ang kulay para cute. Okay. Sine alpha, sine beta. The multiplication of sine alpha and sine beta is just the 1/2 of ano naman po tayo? Cosine of the difference of alpha and beta minus cosine the sum of alpha and beta. Okay. So we have this trigonometric identity. And then we just pattern things out, okay? So the integral dot dy is just 1/2 the integral of 0 to a cosine of alpha minus beta. So pi y over a times n minus n prime. Tama? Diba? Pinactor out ko lang yung common factors para hindi tayo mahirapan mga answer. Then dy minus 1/2. I distributed things, no? Distribute 1/2. Kasi term by term naman ako pwede mag-integrate. 1/2 0 to a cosine n pi y. Joke. Pi y lang muna. Pi y a. Tapos sum na ngayon. Sum n plus n prime. y. Okay. Lance, are you there?
Sir.
Ano integral na to?
Sin pi y over a n minus n prime over pi over a
Over
n minus n.
pi, ano? Pi over a, tapos
n minus n prime.
very good. Dali, no? Dali lang mag-integrate, di ba? Okay. So, thank you, Lance. Evaluate natin to sa 0 to a. And similarly, ganun na lang din to. Hindi ko na i-elaborate very much. Pero same integral. Babago lang yung nasa loob ng mga n at n prime. Okay? Then you have to integrate, evaluate things with respect to, wala nang y to. Ano ba yun? Wala nang y. Okay? Pi over a, n plus n prime. Natanggal ko ba yung y dun sa kabila? Okay, natanggal ko. 0 to a. Okay. Sin 0, mawawala lang yung mga zero, mga second terms, okay? Mawawala lang yung mga second terms. So, i-evaluate ko na lang is yung mga first terms. And amazingly, yung mga first terms, magka-cancel lang yung mga at y is equal to a, magka-cancel lang yung factor nun. So, ang mangyayari ay okay, so ayusin ko lang din to. Magiging ito ay a over 2. Tama? Okay, kasi nasa ilalim siya ng denominator. And then, pagsamahin ko na silang lahat. Sin n joke pi ay pala pi plus n minus n prime over pi n minus n prime. Tama? The second term will be minus sin pi n plus n prime n plus n prime over pi n plus n prime. Okay. Now, kailangan ng mata ng isang physicist dito, no? So tingnan natin the second term. Okay, sige, Honey, nandiyan ka. Hello. Anong value nito sa tingin mo? At arbitrary values of n and n prime. Isip ka ng mga values ng n at n prime, tapos evaluate mo tong sign. Sige, bigay ka ng arbitrary integer. Go. Ano yung n mo?
5.
5. Sige, 5. N prime?
10.
10. Okay. Evaluate mo to ngayon. Sin of pi times 15. Okay, ano sagot dito?
0 po.
0. Sa tingin mo, kahit anong value ba nitong at n at n prime mo, 0 lang lagi ito.
Check ko po sa pang number.
Try ka ibang number.
0 pa rin.
0 pa rin, di ba? So, this is 0, guys. Okay? Kahit anong value nito. Kasi n plus n prime ay laging integer. And integer values of the argument pi, lagi lang siya mag-0. Okay? So, pwede itong maging sin 2 pi, sin 3 pi, sin 4 pi, 5 pi, etc. etc. And laging 0 yun. Also, this is 0. And what's left for us to understand is yung first term. Okay? Okay. Okay. At arbitrary values of this, mag-zero out lang din siya dahil this is a multiple of pi again. Tama? However, at n equals n prime, tingnan natin. Ang mangyayari sa kanya, magiging sin 0 all over 0. Okay? Kung naaalala nyo, yung sin x, ginawa nyo ito dapat sa math, x. Kapag nag-0 yung mga x, ano mangyayari? This is just equal to 1. Okay? Okay? So that is just equal to 1. So ano ng value ng ano natin? Ano ng value ng integral natin? So the integral has the value of the integral dy has a value of 0 if n is not equal to n prime, and then a over 2 kapag n is equal to n prime. Okay? Pansin natin yung dito. So going back, makikita natin na si n gagalaw siya. Tama? Okay? Si n gagalaw yan. So pwede mo, makapansin mo, pag ginalaw mo si n, this whole integral just zeroes out unless n will be pointing out to n prime, kapag equal na lang sila. So when that happens, I could just write this whole thing. So yung left-hand side ko will be equal to, kung nakabisado, so Cn times A over 2. Okay? Diba? Kasi itong integral lang natin na to, and A over 2 lang siya kapag n is equal to n prime. Okay? Okay, kuha ba yan? Okay, so madali na lang natin ma-solve kung ano is Cn. Si Cn is just equal to o Cn prime, whatever. Pero pwede ko naman palitan kahit anong letter to, di ba? So Cn na lang para tayo mahirapan. Pwede kong gamitin na star. Di ba? Pwede ko naman gamitin ganun. So, ang point ko lang is wala nang pake kung anong letter to. Okay. So, we have Cn is equal to 2 over A, the integral of 0 to A ng V naught of Y is the sine multiplied by sine and pi y over A V Y. And that's it. Na-solve mo na yung problem. Problem mo, kung ano yung ano. So, ito yung general solution for the problem. This is the, not general, this is the solution for the problem talaga. So, alam mo to, itong Cn ay this thing that we have solved. Okay? And V naught will be given in the problem. Okay? So, whenever you have that kind of configuration, you can use this. Okay? Okay. Very nice, no? Questions. So, this is the Cn na sinulat natin. Okay? Okay. Amazing, di ba? Okay, let's talk about the spherical na two-dimension lang. Ibig sabihin nun, 3D siya pero sir, nag-a-apply din po ba yung uniqueness theorem? Yes. Kaya natin to nasasagot kasi ginagamit natin yung mga boundaries ng system natin. Okay? And whenever you satisfy those boundaries, tapos makakuha tayong sagot sa V, ayun na talaga yung sagot sa problem mo. Okay? Ganda ng uniqueness theorems, di ba? Sir, paano po yun? More than one po pa yung possible potential sa isang point. What do you mean? Isa lang yung solution. Ito lang. This is the solution. Yung uniqueness theorem does not necessarily mean na yung constant mo at some space will be constant. Ang sinasabi niya lang, there is a set of solution that will satisfy that as long as satisfied niya yung boundary. So yung set of solution na yan for this case is this guy. Okay? So this is unique. I mean, this is the only answer to that problem. Okay? Yes, maraming values ng n. So kaya i-sum mo lahat siya para ma-contain lahat yun. This set is unique. Ayun yung point mo. Itong set na to is unique. Okay? And this is the only answer to the problem. So hindi natin pwedeng sabihin na yung sagot is something like 2 plus n is equal to 1 and this whole thing. Okay? So this whole thing. No, it's not. Ito lang yung pwedeng solution. Okay? Ayun yung solution to the problem. Okay? Okay, so we have another question. Sir, bakit po, quick explain lang po ulit kung bakit nag-introduce ng sign na may n prime. Okay, so bakit ba tayo naglagay ng, so yung tanong mo dito, no, kung bakit siya nilagyan ng sign n prime, pi y over a, tapos in-integrate. Tama ba? Yung tanong mo? Okay. So, ang problema kasi, hindi mo kasi, ito. Ito yung problem natin, di ba? Kailangan natin mahanap si n is equal to 1, infinity, cn sine and pi y over a. Ang sakit pala sa mata, sorry. Dapat pala mag-white ako. V naught of y. Okay. So, hindi ito kasi ma-factor out sa hindi mo ito ma-factor out sa summation. Okay? Kasi ang itsura niyan will be C1 sine pi y over a plus C2 C3 and equals to V naught of y. How do you solve for C? Diba? Napaka-complicated niyo. So, ginawa ni Fourier is that nag-introduce siya ng some factor that will easily isolate C of n, Cn. Okay? So ano siya, mechanical siya, no? It does not, it's a trick, bale. Sabi niya nga trick. Something that is mechanical. Hindi natin siya binibigyan ng rason. Ang rason lang niya para mapadali buhay natin. No physical implication. Okay? Kuha ba? Para lang dumali yung buhay natin. So unless na lang may way ka para matanggal yung mga isolate si Cn, para ma-solve si Cn, then go for it. Okay? So marami pang way para ma-solve to, pero this is one. Okay. Okay. Kuha ba? Kuha. Okay. So kung may question, chat nyo lang ha. Okay. So next natin will be itong spherical coordinates. So nilagay ko na dito yung final answer ng general form ng sagot mo. So kung yung general form natin sa case na to ay ganito, then yung general form for the spherical is ganito. Okay? Okay, so may mga constants pa siya. Dito kasi nabawasan na yung constants mo. Pero yung original na problem mo dito will be just a multiplication of this. Ayun yung general form niya. Okay? Nababawasan lang ng constants kapag in-apply mo na yung boundary conditions. Okay? So, anong ibig sabihin ng azimuthal symmetry? Yung azimuthal symmetry is kapag meron ka tayong sphere, isipin nyo, pangit. Okay, so isipin natin, may ayaw nga naman. Okay, isipin natin, may sphere. Okay? And this is your equator. And this is a line from your north pole to the south pole. Okay? And yes. Okay? Okay. So, yung azimuthal symmetry, sinistate niya lang na kapag umikot ka sa equator, walang magbabago. Okay? So, yung mga factors lang na makaka-apekto sa pagbabago ng variables mo is going from North Pole to South Pole and going far away from the sphere. That is your R dependence. Okay, so R then theta. Okay. So, similarly, gagawa ka ng process mo, gagawin mo yung V of R theta must be equal to some R na R dependence, theta dependence, and then you'll plug in this to your Laplacian in 3D, in spherical coordinates, and then you do things na nasa libro nyo, then you'll end up with this. So yung P of L, yung PL pala, is the Legendre polynomials. Okay? Okay, so ito yung general form niya. Now, hindi ko na di-discuss, pwede nyo yung basahin sa libro. Okay? Kasi similar lang yung mangyayari. Okay, guys? Pa-plug in mo sila dun sa, ano mo. So, suppose mo na yung solution ay this guy, and so on and so forth. Tapos, magiging constant lang, etc. etc. Okay? Kasi hindi ko naman ito papaderive sa exam nyo. Okay? Ayan na yan, as is. So what we can do is just try an example for this kind of problem. Okay? So the potential V naught of theta, so V naught changes with theta, is specified on the surface of a hollow sphere of radius r. So find the potential inside the sphere. So again, we'll use this equation, and that is the general form of the equation. Okay. Wait lang. Lolo ko yung ano ko. Okay. Oops. Okay, sige. Gamitin na lang natin itong colorful. Okay, so we have this guy. Ngayon, mag-apply ka. First things first, lagi ka mag-apply ng ng boundary conditions. So the first boundary condition will be, kasi nasa inside ka ng sphere, di ba? So yung R mo will range from R 0 to capital R kasi ito yung radius mo. Tama? Sa inside ng sphere lang tayo. Okay. So, apply ko ngayon yung boundary condition ko na 0. So, dapat hindi mag-blow up itong equation ko. So, when V of 0 theta, dapat finite yung sagot dito. Okay? AL of 0 raised to L plus B over R raised to L plus 1. 0 raised to L plus 1 tapos PL cosine. Okay. Pansinin nyo. This thing blows up. Infinite to agad. So I have to say that B is 0. Kuha. Then I'm left with V R theta infinity from L to 0. Then yung matitira na lang sa akin is AL R raised to L PL cos theta. Okay, nawala na si B. Kasi magbo-blow up siya whenever R is 0. Okay? Now, what we want to do is find the other boundary. So, V R theta. Capital R theta. Okay? So, I plug in R, capital R, to the small r. And I'm left with R raised to L PL cosine theta. Okay? Mag-iba na ako ng color ng nababother na ako. Okay. Now, gagawa ulit tayo ng trick. Joke, wala pa pala yung right-hand side. Yung right-hand side will be something that is V naught of theta. Sabi niya, ayun ba yung sabi niya, ayun ba yung sabi niya. Okay, so V naught theta kapag nasa radius R. Tama. Okay? Okay. So again, we need to isolate a L. And that's very problematic. Kasi mahirap siyang i-isolate. So we have to multiply some factor again, then integrate. Okay. Amazingly, binigay yung ganun ng ganun ng tawag dito ng my brain. Yung ganun ng Legend polynomials. Oh my God, sorry. Brain fog. Okay. So whenever you integrate P, whenever you integrate PL of X and PL prime of X dx, ang mangyayari lang is magiging 0 siya whenever L prime is not equal to L. Okay? Okay, and then magiging 2 over 2L plus 1 siya kapag L prime is equal to L. Okay? Similarly, kapag nilipat mo siya sa ibang coordinates, so sabihin natin sa theta, okay? Si x pinalitan mo ng theta, ang mangyayari dapat ganito dapat yung form. Okay? So integrate mo yan from 0 to pi, you'll still end up with the same thing. Whenever L prime is not equal to L, mag-0 siya. And when it's equal, L prime is equal to L, magiging ganito. Okay, so what do we have is PL cosine theta. So we need to multiply PL prime tsaka sine theta d theta. Okay? So we have this L0, AL, RL. Then I'll integrate from 0 to pi PL cos theta. Then multiply PL prime cos theta. Okay? And then sine theta d theta. Okay, I'll do the same thing to the other side. So integrate 0 to pi. What did I multiply? PL prime. Oops, V naught muna. V naught of theta. PL prime. Cosine theta of cosine theta. Sine theta d theta. Okay? So nag-multiply lang ako ng PL prime, sine theta d theta. So here, again, this whole thing will reduce to this guy. Okay? So I'm left with a L prime or L prime. Then this is 2 over 2 L prime plus 1 equals the integral. This guy. Pi V naught theta. Okay. V naught PL prime cosine sine theta d theta. Okay. Okay, and then I can now isolate AL. So that is simply AL. Okay, AL na lang, no? Kasi ganun din naman. Kahit anong variable lang din yan. That's a dummy variable. Parang mahirapan. Okay, so just lipat ko lang to. 2L prime. 2L na lang. 2L plus 1 over 2R raised to L. Then 0 to pi V naught theta V naught. Okay, sorry. Cosine theta. Okay, sine theta d theta. Okay? Oops. Sine theta d theta. Okay. Okay, so si PL prime defined yan. Defined yung Legend polynomial. So when we can just search its form. And then sine theta, okay. V naught theta is given. Then you have this. Okay. Wait lang. Is it the same? Is it the same? Okay, so tama ba yung nakuha ko? 2L plus 1, 2R of L. Okay, so that's it. Ito yung nakuha natin. No? Tama naman. Okay, ayun, nakuha natin. Okay. Ah, syempre mahirap mag-integral, guys. Agree ba? Thumbs up naman kayo kung agree. Mahirap mag-integrate o hindi? Mahirap mag-integrate, di ba? Okay. Usually, sobrang hirap na to integrate. Kasi sila dyan, polynomial mo, mahirap kunin. Napakahabang equation yan. Okay? Alam ko may integral definition din yan. So, integral within an integral. Okay. Okay? So, ang ginagawa natin is ina-eyeball na lang natin. Okay? Ibang eyeball to Baka kung ano yung isip yung eyeball. And sabi ni Griffith's eyeball. Okay. Sabi niya, it can be difficult to evaluate integrals of the form 3.69. This guys. Okay? So, analytically and in practice, it is often easier to solve equation 3.67 by eyeball. Okay? So, 3.67 is yung potential mo. Okay? So, for instance, suppose, mamatahin mo lang to. For instance, suppose that we are told that the potential on the surface is V naught, this guy. Okay? So, K sine squared, K V naught of theta is just K sine. Kuwari given to, no? Kuwari ito yung problema natin at hand. Theta over 2. Sir, yung PL po ba ay function of cos theta or nakamultiply lang po yung cos theta? No. Function yung yung PL ay function. Okay, it can be a function of x, it can be a function of cosine theta. Okay? Pakita natin yung ano ba yung values ng PL. So ito yung Lagrange polynomials. Okay? So hardcore na yan, kunin mo pa lang yung 5. Okay, mahirap na kunin yung 5. So buti kinukuha nila. Very good guys, yung mga dati nating scientists. Okay, yung mga sinaunang scientists. Kilala dyan. Okay, kinuha na nila yung marami, 5. Okay. So ito yung Lagrange polynomial. Okay? So, function siya. Okay? Sorry. Baka hindi ko na-specify pa. Nakakalito no, pag may mga ganun, may katabi yung sign. Kasi dito may sign. Ayan, hindi niya pala yung parenthesis. Okay. Ako kasi nagpa-parenthesis sa sign. Okay, so, ito. We have this. Then, fortunately, we can rewrite this as something that's this. 1 over 1 minus cosine theta. Tama ba? So, half angle, mga trigonometric identities niya. Okay? And amazingly, okay? Tingnan natin itong mga values na to. Pag nagagawa akong P0 cosine theta, that is just 1. Diba? Kahit ano naman plug in ko sa x dito, 1 pa rin sagot. Diba? 1, kahit anong plug in ko dito, 1 pa rin. Then, P1 would be, if cosine theta siya, magiging cosine theta. Okay? Okay. So, I can just write this as K over 2 times P0 of cosine theta. Ay, nako. Cosine theta minus P1 of cosine theta. Okay? Okay, so ito yung V naught of natin? V naught of, okay? Ay, V naught of theta, sorry. Nasa kabilang problem yung utak ko. Okay, V naught of theta. Kuwari ay yung potential na given sa atin. And then, I have my general form of my potential, which is V of R. Sorry. Pagbigyan. Guys, Friday na. Okay. Brain fog na ako. VR theta. Okay. And this is the sum. Ito. ALRL PL. ARL PL. Okay. Sum ng L infinity, AL raised to RL, PL cosine theta. Okay? Sir, arbitrary lang po ba na pinili natin yung P0 at P1? No, hindi siya arbitrary. Si 1 kasi lagi siyang P0. Okay? Tama dito? Kahit anong plug-in mo sa X, makukuha mo na sagot ay 1. So si 1 pwede mo lagi siyang i-represent as P0. Okay? And si cosine theta, pwede mo siyang i-represent as P1 ng cosine theta. Dito yan. So ito yung form ng Legendre polynomials mo. No? Kahit anong plug-in dyan sa X, ay yung mamakuha mo. Okay? Nasagot ko ba yung tanong mo? Feeling ko mali yung mali yung pagkakaintindi ko sa tanong mo. So, can you ask it again or kung okay na ba? Okay. Kuwari nakakita ko ng 3 cosine squared theta minus 1 all over 2. Then I could write this. Oh, this looks like Legendre polynomials. Then I could just write this as P2. Tingnan nyo dito, P2 cosine theta. Cosine theta. Okay. Ayan, okay. So going back, we have this general form of our solution. Then again, we write V, R, capital R theta. So I have L0, ups, L0 ba ang una ko? Tama, L0. AL, R, L, T, L, cosine theta. And this is just yung sagot mo, yung V naught theta to. So I write down V naught theta, which is K over 2, P0, and then cosine theta, plus joke minus P1 cosine theta. Okay? Okay. So we have an infinite sum on the left, and on the right, we have just P1 and P0. So of course, dadaanan ni L si lahat ng values ng P, di ba? I mean yung L, magbabago siya from 0 to infinity. And kung natira lang sa kanan, yung P0 at P1, syempre dapat ganun lang din sa kaliwa. Okay, so matitiran lang dito will be A0, R0, P0 of cosine theta. Kasi ang weird naman na may matirang iba, di ba? Kung wala naman ganun sa right-hand side mo. Magulat ka, may P3 dyan, wala ka naman P3 sa kanan. So, hindi pwede. Matitira lang kung ano lang meron sa kanan. Okay? So, plus A1, R1, R raised to 1, P1, cosine theta. Ba't tumatagilid sulat ko? Okay, sorry. P1 cosine theta. And that is equal to A over 2, P0, K cosine theta. Sorry. And then the other term. Okay? And ito yung eyeball. Tinitingnan mo na lang kung ano yung survive. Diba? Ang dali, wala tayong ginawang integral. So, yung P0, dapat ka-partner niya si P0 din. So, A0, R. Yung R0 is just 1, diba? Okay, so hindi ko na siya susulat. Must then be equal to K over 2. Tama. Ito lang yung katabi ni P0 dito ay A0. Yung katabi ni P0 dito is K over 2. So, dapat yung dalawang katabi ng magkatabing yun equal. Okay? And then, A1 has to be negative K over 2 over R. Negative K over 2R. Tama? Okay? So, tama, di ba? A1. Lipat ko yung R1 sa kabila. So, yung coefficients nito will be negative K over 2. Okay? And then, you say, and all other ALs vanish. Okay? So you have this solution. Very nice, di ba? Hindi ka na nag-integrate. Arbitrary lang yung case. Okay, arbitrary lang yung k given yan, given. Sabi niya kasi, paano kung ganun yung, ano mo, yung potential mo? Some constant k, then sin squared theta over 2. Okay. Lupit no, ang galing, no? Ang galing, di ba? So marami pang example sa libro, no? Na magandang aralin. Okay? So we have the general form. Lagay natin general form. Joke, ito na pala. Huwag na natin lagay. So the general form of the potential V, R theta, yung R theta mo, ito, kapag pinlog in na natin sila A1 at A0, ang mangyayari ay, ito yung sagot. Okay? So, ayan yung sagot. Maganda, di ba? Okay? So, that's it. Amazing. So, ayun. Paulit-ulit yan sa chapter 3 sa separation of variables. And you can learn a lot from reading them. Okay? So, your asynchronous topics will be 3D Cartesian. Paano naman kapag may Z dependence na? Diba? X, Y, Z. Kasi yung example natin, naglaho lang si Z. Kasi symmetric naman over Z. And then other examples, of course, for spherical and Cartesian. Okay? Okay. So, meron tayong bonus proud set, no? Yung bonus proud set, dagdag na naman yun sa proud set nyo para lang sumobra yung proud set nyo perfect yun yung perfect. Okay? Okay, so solve the Laplace equation by separation of variables in the cylindrical coordinates. Okay. Assuming there is no dependence on Z. Okay, so mahabang tubo siya. Tapos hanapin nyo raw yung case ng infinite line charge. Okay, so syempre dapat mag-make sense yun. Dapat tutugma sa mga nalaman natin sa previously. Okay, so bakit itong bonus proud set? Kasi hindi nyo kailangan mag-derive sa exam. Wala itong kinalaman sa exam. May kinalaman naman siya. Alam nyo na yung separation of variables in cylindrical coordinates. Pero again, hindi ko kayo papaderive ng mga Laplace equation. Okay? Okay. So yung 3D hindi ata tinakel sa spherical. Okay, kasi mahirap yung 3D na spherical. Hydrogen atom na yan. Okay. Kung itatopic niya ba yun sa 140, I don't know. Pero ayun, mahirap yung 3D. Anyway, okay. Dito tayo tapos. So may bonus proud set, no? Okay, you can do walang mawawala pag hindi nyo ginawa to. Okay. Additional points lang to. Parang bonus kanina, di ba? Bonus 10 plus 2 sa mga umatin. Okay. So now we go to the last chapter, last topic in the chapter 3, which is the multipole expansion. Okay, what is multipole expansion? Okay, at large distances, di ba ang potential mo? Okay, magtatanong ako. Elijah.
Hello po.
Okay, what is the potential for charge Q? For charge Q. So, ano yung general form ng potential pag may charge Q ka? V is equal to?
Y over 4 pi E naught Q over R po.
Okay, very good. Galing, naaalala nyo na. Kasi pag paulit-ulit to, maaalala nyo talaga. Okay. Very good, very good, very good. So, ito yung general form. Okay. Now, however, okay, total charge Q to, di ba? Paano kapag yung charges inside Q ay positive and negative? Okay, what if Q is Q minus Q? Okay, this is valid, di ba? May dalawa akong charge. May isang positive, may isang negative. Pero yung total charge mo, ano mangyayari? Zero. So, the potential is zero. Walang sense, di ba? Walang sense na ganun. Pero hindi, di ba? Hindi naman ganun yung mangyayari. Okay? So, ano dapat natin gawin? So, kailangan mo mag-approximate ng mga bagay-bagay. Okay? Okay. So, ayun yung point ng lesson natin. Multipole expansion. Ibig sabihin, may mga poles ka ngayon. Pag may poles, ibig sabihin meron kang different charges. So ito dipole to kasi dalawa yung poles niya. May positive end and may negative end. Okay? So let's try to understand this setup. Okay? Okay. Madali lang isulat yung potential nito, di ba? So you have the potential due to Q. The potential due to Q is of course this guy. Okay, with distance curly R plus. Makes sense. This guy will have this potential Q over R minus. Okay, katulad lang din nung ito. Katulad lang din yan. Okay, that's negative siya kasi negative yung charge niya. Okay, superposition, napakadali. Okay. However, they are separated by a distance D. So let's try to replace the curly R in terms of dr, kung ano yung distance from the center of those two charges to the point of interest. Okay, and with respect to D also. Okay, so law of cosines. Okay, so R plus, sulat natin, R plus is just, okay, madali lang, di ba? Oops, respond. Okay, R plus, R squared plus is just the distance, R squared, tapos yung height will be D squared minus 2 RD cosine theta. Okay? And then the R minus squared is just R squared plus D squared. Oops, mali. Okay, mali ito. Kasi, anong mali? Wala sa isip ko yung drawing ko. Okay, ano yung height nito? Itong height nito ay D over 2 lang. Okay? So we have to include that in the square. Okay? And then minus R D cosine theta. Kasi 2RD dapat pero D over 2 siya. Then the R minus will be R squared. Okay? Okay, this is distance, this guy, R squared plus D over 2 again. However, magpapalit ng sign yung kabila kasi yung theta is measured along here. Okay? So solve nyo na lang kung bakit naging ganun. Kung bakit pag kinuha nyo dito yung angle. Ano yung makukuha nyo. Okay? Dapat alam nyo na to na mag-negative lang yung cosine theta. Okay. So we can simplify this as R plus minus squared, R squared plus D over 2 squared, minus plus, okay, minus plus RD cosine theta. Okay, so is that similar to this one? Okay, so ito rin yan. Okay. Then I can just factor things para maganda tingnan. Okay. So si R squared is just a scale, may scale na lang yung R squared na 1 plus D squared over 4R squared. Tama? Minus plus D over R cosine theta. Okay? Tama ba? Okay. D over R cosine theta. Minus plus. Okay. Very good, very good. Okay, what we want to know is yung distances na malayo from the system. Okay? At that point, R is much, much greater than D. Okay? Tingnan natin yung setup natin. Okay, yung R, much, much greater than D. Okay? And from this guy, maglalaho yung D squared values mo. May difference po ang plus minus sa minus plus. Yes, may difference yung minus plus also. Okay. Okay. Kung kuwari, the general form is this, di ba? Kuwari, pinili ko lang yung plus. Pipiliin ko lang din yung nasa taas. Okay? So, this gives me that. Okay. Kuwari, pipiliin ko yung baba. This one. Pipiliin ko lang din yung baba. I have this one. So, yun yung sense nun. Yung plus minus sa minus plus. Okay? Para alam mo sino yung magkakatugma. So, plus minus, minus plus. Okay? So, R, curly R, plus minus, can be approximated to R squared, 1 minus plus D over R cosine theta. Okay, naglaho na lang si D squared kasi alam naman natin si R is much, much greater than D. And then in-square mo pa sila. Okay? So lalong lalayo yung difference nila. Si D over R, di siya maglalaho. Okay? Okay. So we have that and then we can obtain the anong kailangan natin? 1 over R, di ba? 1 over curly R. So we get that. So 1 over curly R is minus approximate. So mag-flip lang lahat mo. Magiging R to. Okay? And then square root nito tapos nasa denominator. So I could just raise it to negative 1/2. Okay? Okay. Okay? So, kung mapansin nyo, ito ay binomial, dalawang terms, binomial. And then, with binomials, we can go and have our binomial expansion. Okay? So, when we have 1 over square root of 1 plus x, the expansion goes like this. Okay? So, may 1 minus 1/2 x plus 3 over 8x squared, and so on and so forth. So we expand this. So we have this is equal to 1 over R. Then the expansion. Let's do the expansion. Okay. So si x, papalitan ko lang ng this whole guy. Okay. Okay. Check ko lang notes ko. Okay. Going back. Okay. Okay. So I write down things. Magiging 1 minus 1/2. 1/2 ng kung ano man ito. This whole thing. So D over R cosine theta. D over R cosine theta. And next is plus 3/8 ng D over R cosine theta squared. Now I can stop here. Kasi alam natin si D at R ay magkalayo and D squared over R squared is very, 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 very small. So these terms and so other terms magsi-zero out lang. And then nakalimutan ko yung mga minus plus, no? Minus plus, minus plus. Okay? So, ang mangyayari, I have 1 over R plus minus magiging 1 over R. The expansion of this, matitira lang yung first two terms, 1 over R, 1 minus 1 is 1 half. Magpapalit yung order ng minus plus, magiging plus minus na siya kasi na-multiplyan ng negative. Tama? So plus minus D over 2R. 1 minus plus minus D over 2R cosine theta. Okay? Okay? Over 2R cosine theta. Very good. Tama ako. Okay? And then if I would evaluate now this guy, so 1 over R plus minus 1 over R minus. 1 over R plus minus 1 over R minus. This becomes 1 over R. Pinactor out ko na. Kapit malaking brackets. So unahin ko si plus. So plus tugma na sila. Plus plus minus minus. Nice. 1 plus D 2R cos theta minus 1 tapos minus minus, so this is plus D over 2R cosine theta, and I'm left with cancel mo na yung mga 1. So matitira na lang ay D cosine theta over R squared. Okay, 1 half plus 1 half, that is 1. Okay, so plug in mo yun. Ay nakuha natin D cosine theta over R squared. Tapos ang natira is Q over 4 pi epsilon 1. So that is the potential for a dipole at for regions of space. Okay? So yan, ayun yung potential mo. Na make sense, di ba? Kasi kanina 0, di ba? Pag plus minus yung charges mo. So ito na ngayon yung form ng potential mo kapag may dipole ka. Okay, pansinin nyo na R squared dependence na siya. No? Pero tama pa rin yung units kasi yung D ay units of length din. So napapreserve yung 1 over length na measure. Pero this time, may R squared dependence na siya. Okay? Okay, syempre, merong mga problema natin in life mas komplikado. Okay. So for a charge distribution, so distribution of charges yung hahanapin natin. Okay? So the general form of the potential, alam natin to from chapter 2, di ba? Chapter 2, ito yung general form of the equation for the potential. So if we have this kind of this configuration, okay? So yung R ay papunta pa rin sa point of interest mo. Si R prime will be pointing to the charges. And then the same, yung curly R mo will be the difference from the R prime, R minus R prime. Okay? Okay, kuha ba? So, sulat mo lang ulit kung ano yung law of cosines mo. So, gagawin mo dito, R squared na siya. Curly R squared must be equal to R squared tapos plus R prime squared tapos minus 2R prime 2R prime cos alpha kasi alpha yung angle between R prime and R that points to the curly. Okay? And then the trick that we're going to do, again, is factor out r squared. Okay? Para maging 1 plus r prime squared over r squared, then minus 2r prime over r cosine alpha. Okay? Okay? Then, ginawa ni Griffiths, sinulat niya as ganito. So, kunin mo lang yung square root r, then the square root of 1 plus epsilon. Okay? Okay? So, si epsilon will be the things that are inside here. So, this is r prime squared over r squared minus 2r prime cosine alpha over r. That's it. Okay? Factor out niya lang yung r prime over r. Okay? So, bakit natin gustong gawin ganito? Kasi this is a binomial and you can have an expansion of the binomial you can have a binomial expansion whenever the first term is much bigger than the second term. Okay? So, pag maliit si e, we can now do our expansion. So, ayan ang expansion mo. Okay? So, 1 over r, curly r, is just 1 over r. Babalik tayo mo lang ito, 1 over r. So, again, may 1 plus epsilon tayo. Tulad ng kanina, yung factor, yung exponent niya is 1/2, negative 1/2. Okay? Then I do the expansion, 1 over r, 1 minus 1/2 epsilon plus e squared, etc., etc. Okay? And then, boom, pinlog in niya yung e, epsilon. Okay? Pinlog in niya doon sa mga values, no? Okay? Okay, gets ba? Nai-gets ba? Nai-gets? Pinlog in niya lang. Okay? Okay, so yung gagawin ko next, medyo nakakalito siya. So, tingin lang. Okay? Panoorin lang. Okay, ang gagawin ko is I would isolate the constants. Constants. Oh, sige. Constants. Okay? Then I have to isolate r prime over r. Okay? And then r prime over r squared. R prime over r cube. And so on and so forth. That. Okay? So look very carefully, no? Okay? So constants natin, ano yung mga constants natin? Ang constants natin will be just 1. Kasi dito may r prime over r pa na. You multiply it here, may r prime over r pa rin. This guys too, marami silang r prime over r. And yung may constant lang is yung, so sulat natin. We'll tabulate things. Okay, 1. Okay? And then sa r prime over r, kung hanapin ko yung mga factors nun. Okay, so if I multiply this negative 1/2 r prime r to this guy, ang factor na lang niya is r prime over r. So pasok siya doon. So multiply natin negative 1/2 to negative 2 cosine alpha. So we have cosine alpha. Okay? Ay negative 1/2 kasi times negative 2, that's just 1. Natitira na lang cosine alpha. Okay? Okay, so meron pa bang r prime over r kaya na factor lang? Okay, pag tinignan natin dito, multiply natin. That's r prime over r squared. So, this guy, multiply natin dito. Cube naman. Multiply mo dito, that's squared. So, dito wala na din for sure kasi nilipat mo to, magiging to the fourth na yan. Tapos, papunta dito, third power na yan. Okay? Cubic na yan. So, ayun lang for r prime over r. Okay, let's now look for r prime over r squared naman. Okay, so sa dito, pwede to. Pag minultiply ko yung this guy to this guy, ang matitirang factor ay negative 1/2. Sulat natin. Negative 1/2. Okay. And then here, tingnan natin. Okay, so minultiply ko yung una. That is cube. Tapos pwede ko pala i-multiply yung second term. Kasi squared lang yan. Okay? So I have, dagdag natin siya dito, plus 3 over 8. Let's do it systematically times negative 2 cosine alpha squared. Tama? Kasi may square pa eh. Hindi siya makakalabas ng di na square. Okay? And this is magiging negative 2 squared, magiging 4 yun. So this is just 3 halves. Okay? 3 halves. Sulat na lang natin para ma-ayos na. Okay? 3 halves cosine alpha. Cosine squared alpha. Okay? Madadamay siya dun sa pag-i-square mo. Ay na naman gumalaw. Oh no. Nakaka-frustrate. Yan. Okay. Lastly, titignan natin yung r prime over r cube. Okay? So, doing that, dito sa una, joke. Meron ba dito? To the fourth na to, no? Pag tinignan natin, to the fourth na siya. Kapag minultiply natin ito, dito, to the fourth power na yan. However, may cross terms pala ito, di ba? Ano yung cross terms niya? So, lagay natin yun. Ang cross terms nun will be in terms of r prime over r. So, multiply natin with the squared, magiging cube. So, pwede yun. So, kunin natin yung mga extra factors niya. 3/8. Tama. And then the cross term factor would have negative times negative 2 times 2. So, that's negative 4. Cosine alpha. Okay? Cosine alpha. Okay. So, ayun yung una. And then, dito sa next term, pwede natin i-multiply itong cube na ito to those na walang r prime r over r. So, we have here, magiging cube lang. So, we can get that factor. So, copyhin ko muna si 5 over 16. Parin tayo marito. Times yung negative 2 raised to 3. Negative 2 cosine alpha raised to 3. Negative 2 cosine alpha raised to 3. Okay? And then we apply this. So negative 2 raised to 3, that is negative 8. And then malilipat yung cube sa cosine, so that's 3. So ayan, evaluate ko lang. Okay, and then I multiply these two. So I'm left with positive 5 over 2. Positive 5 over 2. 2 cosine cube. Okay, so evaluate ko na rin to. Negative 3 halves. Tama? Negative 3 halves. Negative 3 halves. Ooh, nice. Okay. So I have this. So if I'm going to write things down, okay, if I'm going to write things down, I will have this guy. So 1 over r times, una ko, constants lang muna. Sulat ko muna yung constants. 1. And then for r prime r, I have this guy. Sulat ko si r prime r. Then yung mga nakuha ko, cosine alpha. And then next will be r prime over r na squared naman. Nakakalito to guys. So Listen closely. Okay, so nagko-collect ko ng terms bale, no? So, kopyahin ko itong mga to. Then that is 3/2 cosine squared alpha. Then minus 1/2. Tama. 3/2 cosine squared alpha minus 1/2. And then next will be cube naman. Plus r prime over r cube ng 5/2 cosine cube. 5/2 cosine cube alpha minus 3/2 cosine alpha. 3/2 cosine alpha. Okay? And plus the other terms. To the fourth, to the fifth, etc., etc. But we can't do all that, di ba? So, kinuha ko lang muna yung iba. I-close natin for closure. Okay? Okay. So, we have that. Now, pansinin natin. Tingnan natin itong Legendre polynomials again. So, 1, x, 3x squared over 2 minus 1/2. Pansinin natin. 1, x, 3/2 x squared minus 1/2. Tama? 3/2 ng x squared minus 1/2. Next term will be 5x cubed over 2 minus 3/2 ng x. 5/2 ng x cubed. Then 3/2 x. Amazingly, these are the Legendre polynomials. Okay, so I can now write that easily as 1 over r, curly r, this guy. Okay, so ito. Hindi ko na pala susulat. This guy. Okay, so Pn of cosine alpha, then you have r prime over r raised to n, kasi sum mo siya from n0 to infinity. That's that, di ba? Amazing, di ba? Lumalabas yung Legendre polynomial sa nature. Okay? Okay? So, if we plug in this to the general form right here. So, I'd simply have this, okay? So, Rn plus 1 siya kasi, R raised to n, may isa ka pang 1 over R sa labas. R plus 1, tapos R prime raised to n, that's normal. And this is Pn, kopyahin lang. Pro, d tau. We know this. Ito siya. Ayun siya. Okay? So, we have that. Amazing, no? So, this is the multiple expansion of the potential V. Okay? And anong sense nito? Okay. So, yung sense niyan will be, this potential will be taking the account of the, kung ano yung pagiging pole, pagiging nature ng pole ng charge distribution mo. Okay? So, the monopole term, so we designate the monopole term as the n is equal to 0. So, plug in mo yung n is equal to 0 dyan. Ano makukuha mo? Yung P0, 1 lang yan, di ba? P0, 1, tapos R prime raised to 0, just 1. And then the integral of rho d tau is the total charge Q. 0 plus 1, magiging R, so over R. Okay, so sa monopole, so isang charge, ang makukuha mong potential is this. Amazing, di ba? Ito yung nasolve natin nung una. Okay? Okay, and then the next interesting thing is the dipole term. Plug in lang natin yung 1. N is equal to 1. So we have this guy. So plug in natin yung 1, magiging r squared, 1 over r squared, tapos r prime cosine alpha rho d tau. Okay? Okay. And then, okay. Tingnan natin to. Okay. R prime, di ba? Vector r prime Yung vector r prime at r is different. May pagitan silang alpha. Tingnan natin. Balikan natin yung balikan natin yung graph natin. So this guy. So ang pagitan ng r at r prime ay alpha. So when we have r dotted with r prime, this is just actually r prime cosine alpha. So if we have r hat in direction lang, then I would have r prime cosine alpha. And just, okay, feel ko alam nyo naman na yan, pero I'm just making things clear. Okay, so I have that, then I could just plug in that here. Okay, pansin nyo, plug in lang. Okay, so r hat dot r prime, pinlog in dito sa r prime cosine alpha, and we would have this. Okay, so r hat dotted with this guy. So now, itong factor na integral to, we can write that as the dipole moment. Okay? P. The definition of the dipole moment is this guy. Okay? So, vector yung P ha. Ang vector yan. And this is just the r prime times yung charge distribution, or integrate mo over the volume. Okay? So that's the dipole moment. Then you can neatly write the dipole potential as r hat dotted with P. Okay? So yung dot product naman ay commutative, so pwede yung pagpalit-palitin. That's the dipole potential. Okay? This is the dipole potential. And let's calculate the electric field that is produced by a dipole. So, paano makuha yung electric field from a potential? PJ.
Negative delta nabla v, sir.
Okay. So the gradient, negative gradient ng V. So very good, naalala. Gradient ng V. Okay, del or nabla. So, parang hirap no. Gradient na lang pag ganito. Automatic na. Okay. So yan, we evaluate this. Okay, so we have to evaluate three derivatives. So partial of V with respect to R. That is P cosine theta over 4 pi epsilon naught 1 over r squared. Anong derivative mo? So r negative 2. So negative 2. Tapos oh my God. Negative 2 over r cubed. Tama. Tama ba? Tama, di ba? Okay. So that's your dependence on r. Then yung theta mo will be negative. So P, sulat muna natin yung mga tatagos sa derivative, r squared. Yung cosine theta, derivative nun, negative sine theta. Tama? Okay. And then, with respect to the phi, wala siyang zero. Okay, so the gradient of V is just E is equal to negative. The electric field is just 1 over 4 pi epsilon naught. Then, since may 1 over 4 pi epsilon naman na factor out ko na yun. Negative 2 P cosine theta over r cubed. Where does this point? R hat. Tapos tapos yung second term mo will be may 1 over r na extra. Okay, dahil sa Dahil dito sa formula ng gradient mo for spherical, so may 1 over r na extra. But this is negative. Okay, so, okay, so negative daw to. Then I'll have my p sine theta over r squared, so r cubed din. Oh, amazing. Then theta hat. Okay? I can factor out p and r cubed. So I have... bakit negative nakuha ko? Kasi may negative sign pang extra. Okay, nakalimutan ko yun. May negative sign pang extra. Tama, guys? Kasi negative gradient of d. Sorry. Ako ba't positive yung sagot? So I have to factor out p, 1 over 4 pi epsilon naught, r cubed, cosine theta times 2, r hat, then sine theta minus sine theta, theta hat. Okay? Okay. So that's your electric field. No? Amazing. Ayun yun. Diba? So ito, yung anong itsura nito? Ito yung pinakita ko sa inyo nung start ng class. Okay, so when you have two charges, negative and positive. Okay, so this looks like this guy. Potential. Parang magnetic field ng Earth. Ganyan siya. Okay. Parang mansanas. Okay? Ganyan. You know this image. Ito yung nasa profile picture ng canvas natin. Okay? So, ayan. So, that's the electric field for a dipole. So, you can continue. Other poles. Okay. So, yung yung n is equal to 3, that is, n is equal to 2, that will be the quadrupole. N is equal to 3 will be your octapole. So, walang 6, no? Multiples of 2 raised to 2. Okay. Para symmetric siya. Kasi pag 6 charges, hindi magiging symmetric yun. Magiging weird yun. So I want you to read, I want you to read, may note si Griffiths about yung sa, paano ba pinipili yung origin ng isang dipole moment. Okay? Okay. So ang concern kasi ni Griffiths, paano kapag yung monopole mo, pabalik ka sa monopole mo, inusog mo ngayon yung coordinate system. Okay? Coordinate system mo. Kasi ang assumption natin dito sa discussion natin, that the origin, may charge sa origin. Okay? May charge sa origin mo. Ano kapag inusog mo yung charge na yun? Ano makukuha mo sagot? Okay, so may note siya doon. Basahin nyo. Importante. Baka malito kasi kayo. Okay, nakakalito itong topic na to. Okay? Walang nakalagay na pubset, nakalimutan. Next week na lang. Okay, okay, that's it. Tapos na natin chapter 3. Amazing. Pwede na kayo mag-exam. Next week na siguro yung exam. Sige, habang nandito kayo, no? Dahil kalahati naman kayo ng class. Anong araw niyo gusto mag-exam? Sige, stop share ko na muna. Okay, record na rin natin para sa mga hindi pumasok. Anong araw mo gusto pumasok, PJ? Anong araw gusto pumasok? Anong araw mo gusto mag-exam, PJ? Siyempre, Monday to Saturday lang pwede. Saturday, okay. Jello, ikaw.
Saturday din po, sir.
Sinong hindi Saturday? Ngayon na lang. Honey, ano sagot mo? Lance. Go. Friday. Okay. Tapos, Honey, nandiyan ka ba ba? Ay,
Saturday po.
okay. Si Lance.
Saturday po.
Elijah.
Saturday po.
Joshua.
Saturday po, pero pwede gabi po.
Okay, Ross.
Sa Sabado po.
Okay. Actually, pwede namin pwede namin isip ano po date ng Saturday. Probably next Sabado. May last topic pa eh. May dadagdag pa kami topic sa first exam. Okay, so matatapos tayo ng coverage for the first exam sa Tuesday. And exam na kayo Sabado, kaya na yun. $23 ba yung Saturday? Oo, 23 yung Sabado. Okay. So 12 hours yung exam nyo, look at mo. Close notes po ba yung exam? Hindi, bahala kayo. Hindi kayo pwede mag-close notes kasi kailangan nyo yung mga nasa likod ng libro nyo. Di ba? In real life physics, di naman kayo magka-close notes. Mag-google kayo lagi ng mga equations and things. Okay. So, okay lang. Bukas kayo ng notes na lang pa. Kung mahanap nyo sa notes yung sagot mo. Kasi di ba nakakapagod mag-memorize? Tama ba? Walang ba? Kaya masaya mag-physics kasi wala kang memorize. Kaya mong i-derive lahat. Open net din po ba siya? Oo, I mean, yes. Malay ko ba kung nasa internet yung notes niyo, di ba? Kasi probably hindi niyo masa-search yung gagawin ng exam. Okay. Solo yung exam, solo yung exam. Okay. So anything else? Any questions? 5 minutes. Okay, wala na. Ay, sir, may tentative. Sir, anong oras yung exam niyo sa 140?
Sir, wala pa pong final po. Pero sinabi lang po sa amin in advance po ng first
23
few
din?
meetings. Opo, sir.
Buyon? Charot. Naipag-away. Okay. Mga ilang items exam, sir? I don't know. Hindi pa namin napag-usapan. Sorry. Probably, baka may 3 problem. Or at least 2. Max 4 problems. Okay, tapos ito yung mga step-by-step exam. Ayan, step-by-step problems. Na pag nagkamali ka sa first part ng tanong, magkakascade. Okay, kasi cascading tong electromagnetic. Kailangan makuha yung charge distribution, saka ka magpo-proceed sa potential, saka mo makukuha yung field, then saka mo makukuha yung force. So kung nagkamali ka sa simula, naku po, di ba? Kaya nag-lesson tayo ng maraming topics para ma-assure nyo na tama yung sagot. Yung mga boundary conditions, ganun. Na pag tumawid ka sa isang surface charge distribution, what can you get, etc., etc. Anything else? Any other questions? So thank you sa inyong 8 na pumapasok pa sa synchronous class, no? Okay. Buti, ang hassle kaya ang hassle kaya nang hindi pumapasok. I mean, kasi papanoorin mo to, di ba? Papanoorin mo in your own time. Tapos 1.5 hours siya. Tapos pag nanood ka pa, kunwari nasa kama ka, syempre makatulog ka. Ang hirap kaya. Dito forced ka. Di ba? Tinatanong ko kayo lagi. Baka siguro lang para sa akin kasi tamad ako. So pag naging backlog siya, talagang tinatamad na akong gawin. Okay, kung wala nang tanong or kung meron man, pwede nyo send sa Canvas. Dinner na tayo mga guys. Enjoy your weekend. Goodbye. Thank you.